Yo, what is going on, everybody? And welcome back to the After the Whistle podcast. I am your host, Owen Tomko. And today I'm going to try making a quick episode because it's a very boring slate of college football games this week, actually. I dug through and there were really only like 4 games that caught my eye. So I'm going to be doing my best to go into as much detail on those games as I can. I won't go into as much detail as I normally go into, but I'll also be getting into conference championships because those are pretty much set in stone to this point, and those are happening next week. So I will go over all those predictions next week, but I'm going into who's playing. So actually, we'll start out with that. I kind of switched my computers around, so now I got the camera here, the computer here, and I still have my notepad. So, still scuff setup. So big news out of the Big Ten Conference, they changed the entry requirements into the conference championship game. So there were previous requirements was you had to play a minimum of 6 games to be eligible for the college or for the conference championship game. And since last week, they changed it. So they changed it to allow a 5-win Ohio State team into the conference championship. And they announced they'll be playing Northwestern. So it'll be Northwestern versus Ohio State in the Big Ten Conference Championship game, which will be an interesting game. I think it's BS that they kind of grandfathered in Ohio State into the Big Ten Conference Championship game. I thought it should have been Indiana, but I don't know how much chance Indiana would have stood because they lost their quarterback for the year. That'll be an interesting game. That's at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. So everybody's traveling this week or next week. On to the Big 12 championship game. I was right on one of them. I was right on Iowa State. Sorry, Iowa State was a guarantee into that position. So they'll be taking on Oklahoma actually. So it'd be Oklahoma versus Iowa State. Good Lord. In the Big 12 Conference Championship game in AT&T Stadium in Arlington. So that'll be a pretty good game as well. I mean, it's a Big 12 game, so it'll be high scoring, whatever. On to the Sun Belt Championship game. I know it's a weird conference to go over, but the Sun Belt, you have the Louisiana Raging Cajuns taking on Coastal Carolina. I did call that one, I think, as well. But they're not going anywhere for their championship game. They're actually playing at Coastal Carolina because they couldn't find a stadium. Or, not that they couldn't find a stadium, I don't know if they could find a stadium to play in. On to the probably one of the biggest ones other than the SEC championship game. You have the ACC championship game. You have number 3 Clemson taking on number 2 Notre Dame in the ACC championship game at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, home of the Carolina Panthers. That'll be a very, very good game. I forgot to tell you what time. So the Big Ten championship game's at 12 p.m. Eastern on Fox. The Big 12 championship game is 12 p.m. on ABC. Sun Belt championship game is 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The ACC championship game's at 4 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Okay, now we're caught up. On to the American championship game. The American Athletic Conference, I think the AAC. That is featuring the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes headed to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Once again, it is not being played at a neutral site. It is being played at the University of Cincinnati. Good game. I think I did call Cincinnati in there, and I did call Tulsa in there, but it was kind of clear. So I'm not a mastermind by any means. But that game is 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC. And on to arguably the best championship game. You have the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the number 6 Florida Gators. That game is going to be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, home to the Atlanta Falcons. That game will be 8 p.m. Eastern on CBS. There's a couple of championship games that we don't know about yet, and that is we don't know about the MAC Conference Championship game. We don't know about the Pac-12 Conference Championship game. But there are some games that'll have impact on those championship games coming up this weekend. But yeah, so those are the conference championship games, and those are all happening next week. So not this week, but next week. But this week's slate of games was kind of boring, like I already said. I scrolled through, found probably the biggest ones, and most of them are ranked teams, but there was one other that's featuring two unranked teams. You have number 9 Georgia, who is 6-2, headed to Missouri to take on the 5-3 Missouri Tigers. They are actually ranked 25th in the country. They have played some good football as of late. The over-under the game is 54.5. I don't know about that game because it's an SEC game and Georgia is very good, especially now with JT Daniels under center. I feel like they can put up a boatload more points than they have been. But I don't know about Missouri. I don't know how well Missouri's going to do against Georgia's defense. Honestly, I'll take a surprise under here. I do think this will be a very, very good game. Even though Georgia's the clear favorite in this game, they're favored by 14. So people are saying it's not even going to be close, which I do agree with because Georgia's Georgia, and they are pretty good. But Missouri's played some good football as of late, and I think they really could give Georgia a run for their money, only because they've been playing really good offense, and I don't know. I will take the under on this game, but I will say Missouri does cover. I don't think they win, but I think they fall within. I think they win, or I think Georgia wins by less than 14 points. So, I think that means Georgia covers. I don't really know how betting works. I think that's how it works. I think Georgia has to win by 14 or more to cover. So in that case, Missouri, I do say they cover. On to our next game. Pretty big game, actually. No implications on anything, but just a really big game in general. You have number 17 North Carolina, who is 7-3, headed to Miami to take on the 8-1 ranked 10th in the country Miami Hurricanes. Over under this game 67.5. That's a big score. Team's got to score 33 points plus, both of them, which I usually see happening. So I'm taking the over on this game. Both offenses have been electric for both teams. North Carolina, I did get to see them play. They played Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. They played pretty good. I mean, we just got after Sam Howell pretty well. Defensive line played really well, and our secondary actually held up pretty good. I haven't seen much of Miami's defense, so I don't know if they can generate pass rush at all. But it will be a very good game. Over in this game, 67.5. Like I already said, I'm taking the over, and Miami is favored by 3. So it'll be a very close game. It very well has a chance of being a blowout for either team because North Carolina really doesn't play too good defense. Miami plays decent defense, but not like outstanding. But it will be a shootout. I will say Miami wins, or I will say North Carolina wins this game. Actually, I will take an upset. North Carolina over Miami. I just think North Carolina is just going to be I just think they're going to score every time they touch the ball. I think their defense is going to find a way to force some stops against De'Aaron King, who is the quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes, who has had a pretty good year himself, actually. I think, yeah. So I'm going to take North Carolina over Miami. I don't know what the score will be. I think it's I'm going to say 42. I don't know. 42-35. 42-35 North Carolina. North Carolina does cover. I will take the over on the game. On to our next game. You have number 15 USC who enters 4-0, headed to not far actually from there. They're taking on crosstown rival UCLA, who's 3-2 at going into this game. I've watched USC play some games. They've looked pretty good. Two of their wins came in like the last minute of the game on last minute drives, which has been pretty fun to watch. UCLA, they're 3-2. Didn't really get to watch them much. I watched them a couple possessions against Cal. Looked okay. I think they were without their quarterback though. Spread is 62. It's a Pac-12 game, so they're expecting it to be very high. I don't see it being a very high-scoring game, so I'm going to take the under. I don't think the teams are going to score 31 points plus. I really don't. I don't see UCLA putting up 31 points, and I sure as heck don't see USC. I mean, I do see USC putting up 40 plus, but I don't see UCLA putting up 20 either. They do think it's going to be a lot closer. USC is favored by 2.5, which is an interesting line because UCLA is ranked, or USC is ranked and UCLA is not. But I don't really watch either team. I watched USC beat the crap out of Washington State a couple of days ago actually now. But I don't know. A low scoring game. I do see USC winning this game. I don't even want to guess the score because I have no clue on what it's going to be. So at that point, all I'm going to say, USC wins, USC covers, and I'll take the under. Under our last game, which is weird because normally I have like 6 games lined up. I got a last game here, so 4 games. I'll probably go look for one more or something through the schedule. But it is the Stanford Cardinals headed to Oregon State to take on the Oregon State Beavers. Stanford comes into this game. I actually have this. For some reason, my computer's not loading. But I think Oregon State. Screw that. I'll just jump right in. Over under in this game is 52.5. I did see Stanford play a little bit against Washington last week. They did come out with the win, by the way. They just got back to what they were doing. Run the football really, really well. That's true Stanford. They love to run the football. They don't shy away from it. And then Oregon State's coming off a loss, actually, to the Utah Utes last week by 6, 30-24. Spread on this game is 52.5. I will take the over. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. Here we go. Stanford comes into this game 2-2, and Oregon State comes in 2-3. The spread is 3 in favor of Stanford. I don't know. I think it's a back-and-forth game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State wins this game because they very easily could. But it's going to be up to Oregon State to stop the run. If they can stop the run, I think they're put in a very, very good position to win this game. Stanford's quarterback Mills, he's had a pretty good year himself. For playing 4 games, he has 784 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the big thing is their running back. He's had a couple of good games. Through 4 games, he has 332 yards, 7 touchdowns on 81 carries. So it may not seem like the greatest stat line ever, but I think Stanford does love to run the ball. That's their roots. They go back to that and run the football. But I do think it's a back and forth game, but I do think Oregon State actually does win. I think they get up on them and then force Stanford to throw the ball, and they get a couple turnovers and score more. So I'll take the over, and I will take Oregon State to cover. So that's actually all that I have on my notepad. But it's perfect because I'm finishing in under 20 minutes. I'm probably going to finish just above 15 minutes because I'm going to probably talk it out a little bit. But I don't know. It's interesting slate of games this week. But so this is my 6th video, and it is another college football video. We will have an NFL one coming out tomorrow, and I'll make sure it comes out tomorrow, not Sunday morning, because one, that puts a lot of pressure on me because I got to get up and make the video and get it out, write down, do all my notes. The notes take 15 minutes just to kind of go through, write everything down, whatever. But yeah, I'll make sure I get that out by before 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll make a promise to you on that. But we're getting down to crunch time for college football. We got conference championship next week, and then we have the college football playoff selection show. I think not next Tuesday, but in 2 weeks on Tuesday. So I'll be doing a video going over that probably on Wednesday. But that'll determine the top four and who is headed to the college football playoff. Barring some miracles in the conference championships, I do see Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and I don't know who the fourth team is. That is saying Notre Dame wins. If Notre Dame doesn't win, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Those are the top four. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I know it's a short slate of games this week, but I'm trying to cut down on the video length just so you guys can watch it a little bit more, because I know 40-minute videos of me just talking straight for football is not very entertaining to watch. So, doing my best over here, but yeah, so we got an NFL one coming out tomorrow. We expect a couple more next week leading up to the conference championship games. And yeah, so that'll pretty much be it, guys. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you didn't make it to the end of the video, appreciate it. But, it is what it is. So, see you guys next week. Or I'll see you guys tomorrow, actually. And, yeah, peace, guys.